The following is a paid advertisement of St. Anthony Hospital Orthopedics. References to any specific product, services, or entity does not constitute an endorsement or recommendation by St. Anthony Hospital, Carroll Broadcasting, or its advertisers. The views expressed by the host or guests are their own, and their appearance on the program does not imply an endorsement of them or any entity they represent. Welcome to the St. Anthony Hospital Orthopedic Show with Dr. Richard Godding. Dr. Godding specializes in joint preservation, reconstruction, and replacement surgery, and brings over 25 years of orthopedic excellence to St. Anthony Hospital and to the Carroll area. For more information about Dr. Godding, his practice, or St. Anthony Orthopedics, go to santanthonyhospital.org or make an appointment by calling 712-794-5536.
Good Sunday morning, Iowa. It's Dr. Rick Godding. Thank you for choosing to spend a little bit of time with me here today. As you might be able to tell from my voice, it was a flu weekend for me. I don't know if it was a flu, whatever. I mean, I don't even worry about what it is anymore. I just kind of do my thing. I've found two things that are really, really good. During the day, Alka-Seltzer plus extreme cold and flu is really good. And at night, just good old-fashioned NyQuil. And then when I ran out of the Alka-Seltzer, I had some Dayquil. It was volleyball weekend up in Wisconsin Dells. My oldest daughter was up there playing. And, of course, my wife wasn't there and my youngest daughter wasn't there. Both the daughters had Wisconsin Dell tournaments this year, and so we split them. And so I went up, and the Dells is really a interesting place. There's nothing I've ever seen that's quite like it. It's the kitschiest place in the world. I can remember going when I was little, because we lived until I was 12. I lived in a little town outside of Chicago. Well, multiple towns outside of Chicago. I mean, I had friends that we lived in a small town, and 3 miles out were farmers. So, but anyway, so we went to the Dells, I would say at least a couple times when I was little, and it looks just like it did back then. And, if I was 10, that place would still look like magic to me. And especially if I was, say, between, let's say, 6 and 10, that place would still look like magic. And because it's all roller coasters and water parks, and even there's a lot of hotels with big indoor water parks, and the girls, after volleyball one day, they did water park, and then the other day they did some pottery painting, and I actually just went right back to the room and went to sleep. We had the PM wave, they call it. They had the AM wave and the PM wave for games, and we had the PM wave, so we would end up around 7:30, 8 o'clock at night, and I would just basically grab a little food and go to sleep. And we stopped on the way up one night and just at a hotel kind of outside of Rochester, and then got there. And so for me, it was basically shuttling my daughter back and forth, watching the games, and then just going right to sleep. But anyway, it's a fascinating place to take your kids or grandkids when they're 100% when they're below 10 or below. 12, they probably still would think it was pretty cool. I think, and maybe even up to 15 or 16, I don't know. My girls have gone because of volleyball, and we actually did go up there once when they were little. We drove them up there one time, and they really did enjoy it when we were just there just for the roller coasters and stuff, and that's been about 6-8 years ago. But it's just interesting. I would suggest checking it out. That's one thing about this volleyball is you do get to see a lot of places, and of course some of them are just Midwestern cities, but this one it's just a different place. It's fun, and of course it's fun. So her team did pretty well. They got 6th out of 16, which is not too bad. They played pretty well and just had a good time. It was nice. I was videoing my daughter, and then I kind of stopped because I wasn't trying to get every play. I did that a couple years ago. I first had started this YouTube channel for my carnivore diet process and progress, and I was trying to learn how to, appropriately do some video stuff. And so last year I took a lot of video of my daughters, and I found out that editing it takes a lot of time. And so I don't know how many hours of volleyball from last year. So I haven't been as aggressive this year with the really good camera that I bought for that. Anyway, I was just taking some video with my iPhone. iPhones still take pretty darn good videos. It's shockingly good compared to, I mean, if you go back 15 years, 20 years, you would have to spend a whole lot of money to get a consumer camera that takes as good of videos as your iPhone will take right now. Anyway, so I'm taking a video and I set it down, and my daughter had this tremendous block, and the guy sitting behind me his daughter was on the opposite team. And he said, "Oh, wow, what a block." I said, "Thanks, that was my daughter." I said, "Dang, I missed it." And he's like, "Hey, I got it. Let me just zap it to you." And so we touched phones, and the video came onto my camera or on my phone and into my files. And it was just, first of all, it was really nice. And there's very nice people. And typically, I've never seen parents argue at a volleyball. It's not like what you see on YouTube at the youth baseball and football games and stuff. Volleyball parents are all pretty chill, just want to have a good time, and are there supporting their daughters. But it was very, very nice of him to extend that to me to, I just thought it was pretty cool. But additionally, I was just like, how crazy is that? This guy takes this video on his phone and he just touches the end of his phone to the end of my phone, and that video just zaps right onto my phone. I'm still like fascinated with the technology that we sort of take for granted every day, and it still bewilders me to some extent, and you just wonder. And then AI coming in, and AI is, I don't know if you've ever used ChatGPT. You can just ask it to write a story about something, and it'll write a story about something. You can ask it to write anything you want, like a script, and for whatever. And it's fascinating, and it is interesting to wonder, what the implications are going to be for society. And I hear a lot of people who are saying, well, things like contract law is going to be completely taken over by AI. Things like accounting. And I don't know if that's the case or not, but it certainly does seem to make sense that if you could just sit down and spend 10 minutes, I mean, I prefer human interaction, so I would always prefer to go know a person and have a person involved in whatever those things, those kind of services are. On the other hand, from the perspective of a contract law type of situation, you would, it might be that AI would be more thorough. I don't know. It's just interesting. And then what are going to be the fields that how do our kids adjust into that when they're gearing into their future? I mean, there's clearly going to be a big shakeup in how society is running by AI. I think if you're not paying attention to it, it might catch you by storm, because you can just, when you see the power of what's happening with it, you can tell that it's absolutely going to change things. I think in the medical field, I think I will always want to have a physician who's a person who I know. And it may be that AI might be okay for some people. Like you go in and, you just maybe have the nurse take your vitals and then enter everything into the computer, and then AI does. I don't know. I'm not sure how, without some kind of wild scanning device to do the physical exam, because physical examinations are really, there's some subtleties to, feeling the abdomen, and certainly like in orthopedics, and I'm just talking about primary care right now, how it could apply to primary care. I mean, I guess, so here's a visit, like if you're in your doctor's office and you have the flu or a cold or something, I don't know. I'm not sure, because, listening to the lungs, it's all very subtle stuff. And I don't know if AI is going to get better at it or not, but I much prefer a doctor. But there are areas where one of the things with respect to medicine that I look at is I think, well, radiology. Now, radiology is, diagnostic radiology. So radiology is the branch of medicine that looks at essentially x-rays, CTs, MRIs, bone scans, nuclear medicine, things like that. And then as a branch of that, they have what's called interventional radiology. Now, the interventional radiologist will do things through your veins. Like they will go in sometimes if you have an aneurysm, which is like an outpouching in a vessel in your leg. The interventional radiologist sometimes will put a catheter into the vessel and go in, and they can put material in that outpouching pocket called an aneurysm to fill it up so that it no longer is causing the blood to go out of the vessel into that little pocket. So if you can understand, so the blood vessel would be like a hose, and when the old rubber hoses were sometimes if it would break through and you'd have or even like a rubber tire with an inner tube, and the inner tube is puffing out, that's kind of like an aneurysm. Okay. And so the interventional radiologists will oftentimes take care of things like that. But the radiologists that just read the films, I wonder if AI is going to compete with them first in medicine. Because, if the resolution of the picture is such that, and then you can write the program so that they're able to detect something even earlier. I don't know. I think when I look at how AI is going to affect medicine, I think diagnostic radiology would be sort of the first place that it might come in. Because, look, there's a million. I'm a long way from wanting to get on a plane piloted by AI. I can promise you that. I want a person there. But I'm not much for AI cars, the self-driving cars right now. But, people are taking those taxis all over the place. I guess in town in a taxi is one thing and out on the highway is another to me. It does get down to that thing. It's like, well, how good is it going to get? Anyway, so if I'm kind of meandering, but my point is I think that it's going to impact our lives in many, many ways. And I think in medicine, it's going to impact it in ways that we can't even imagine right now. And I think that initially like I said, the diagnostic radiology might be the first actual physicians that I think might get replaced by AI, and I don't know how quickly that would happen, or if that really is going to happen. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm having a mental exercise of how is this thing going to work through medicine. We use the robot in the OR for knee replacements. Of course, we've gone over that ad nauseum on this channel, but the subtleties of making the incision and exposing the knee and then feeling the tension of the knee and saying, well, this is sort of what the knee ought to feel like. These are all just real subtle things that are at least a generation away. To the point that an AI is going to, like a robot is going to be actually doing a surgery without a surgeon there involved at all, I think it's going to require a humanoid robot that can touch and feel. And it's going to be a robot that you wouldn't be able to tell is a robot. And so that's how far away we are from that. And I don't know how far away that is. I have no idea. You see some of these videos on YouTube as far as, where these newer robots are going, and I don't know how long it is. But it's something that's coming. It's going to affect all facets of our lives, and we just don't really know how. And that's a little bit intimidating, and it's a little bit exciting, and it's a wild time we live in with all this stuff. And, I think that with respect to AI, I heard that AI is going to be smarter than the smartest human by the next year or so, and that they think that in 5 years, AI will be smarter than all people put together. And of course, like I said, that's frightening, and and exciting all at the same time, as long as they don't just decide they don't need us and all that. But the applications that I can see going forward in orthopedics are certainly design applications. How do we design orthopedic implants better, whether it be a total knee replacement or a rod to go inside a bone or things like that. But I think most of the things in orthopedics, there's only marginal improvements that are going to be available. So there were no total joints, and then there were total joints. So that's just a gigantic step, right? Then there was the first generation of total joints and materials. And then there's now the newer generations, 3 generations, 4 generations down. And now we have 95 being put in by a robot, assisted by a robot. And we now have total joints that 95% of the people are satisfied or very satisfied with. So 95 becoming 100 is never going to happen. So you're only really going to be able to hit the margins of these things. So I don't know exactly in orthopedics how big of a difference AI is going to make. I would think AI might be what could cure cancer, that kind of stuff, like, oh yeah, well, if you have a brain power that's that significant, then these more experimental and intellectual exercises might be what AI really pushes forward. But from a surgical perspective, and general surgery, orthopedic surgery, eye surgery, I think we're just a long, long way, because it's so subtle. And the robot can help us be very exact in bone cuts and things like that, but you wouldn't use in like urology. They use a different robot, very different robot, and it allows them to do things through a much smaller incision with a precision level that would be difficult to do without the robot, but it's still the doctor's hands running it. And I just think we're a long, long, long leap from now to the point where we have AI robots fully doing surgery. But we'll see. I mean, I'm saying it here in March now of 25. We'll see what's happening in 2030. If I'm still doing this radio show, we'll look back and we'll say, well, now look what happened in 5. Because 5 years ago, I mean, AI was more theoretical than anything. I mean, it was just like chess, right? But now with ChatGPT and all these other things coming out, it's just coming fast and furious. It's kind of like the internet. And like one day you have the World Wide Web, and you can do a couple little clunky things, and then 10 years later you have more computing power than put men on the moon in your pocket, and essentially infinite, unlimited information, instantaneous to you at all times. So anyway, not a whole lot of orthopedic talk today, just a little bit of a kind of thought experiment about where all this technology has taken us. And it did come from, I see what's happened in my career, and I see what's happening around in the world, and it can kind of be a little bit overwhelming. But so far the good has outweighed the bad, although I'm not sure I would say that about social media and cell phones for kids. We're still grappling with that, I can tell you. One more little thing before I go. So I've had a few patients tell me that they've had trouble getting the recent episodes on the WHO iHeartRadio website for podcasts, so you can listen to it at your leisure. That seems to have continued to happen, and I'm trying to work that out with WHO. But no matter where you live in Iowa, you can go to carrollbroadcasting.com. And they are all there. We checked that this morning. They're all there. If you want to listen to the show at another time, go to carrollbroadcasting.com, go to the podcast section, and it'll be very easy to find there. So I hope that anybody who wants to listen to that at a different time can just go there and enjoy it. So I hope everybody is... Again, I'm recording on Monday, so we're either have had a blizzard last Wednesday or we didn't. I hope we didn't, but hopefully everybody did well if we did. And thanks for tuning in, and you have a blessed week, Iowa.
This has been the St. Anthony Hospital Orthopedic Show with Dr. Richard Godding. For more information about Dr. Godding, his practice, or St. Anthony Hospital Orthopedics, go to www.santanthonyhospital.org or make an appointment by calling 712-794-5536.